Welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast, the podcast that really just throws it all different kinds of ways. You never really know what's coming, and I think that's what's most exciting. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into our grounding in our greatness. Like, come on, people. So many great things have happened to me. Like, I am just in this wave of abundance, and I think it comes from, right, like the letting go of that block. And it seems like such a simple thing to do. I can tell you the path to that point has been one of the most difficult kind of level ups that I've had, because it's almost like crossing over into a new dimension or reality, and that's the best way that I can describe it. And it's necessary, right? Like matching that frequency. And if you've experienced it, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't yet, when you do, please let me know. Okay. So, anyways, we're like crossing over into abundant waters. So, I've been always, the entirety of my life, I don't even know, yes, yoga existed. I have always wanted to be a yogi. I have attempted to make it happen multiple times. I have attempted to attend classes. I have attempted to start to engage with that network. It has been a start-stop process of yoga and me sort of coexisting on similar paths, but shockingly opposite, right? And every time I went, it felt good, but I couldn't get there to really experience it. And I'm not talking about like being able to do the splits and get in tree pose and stay. Like that was the harder part, right? Like I can be successful at this. Really physically, when you have pushed your body to athletic extremes, physically you know that there really are no limits. Mentally, that's where the limits lie. And so going into yoga, I could easily adopt and conquer the practice. That really wasn't a question. And then so the mental side is what was holding me back, right? Like the inability to tap into the deeper meaning of yoga. And that's why it always felt so unattached. It just felt like weird stretching. I don't get it, right? But nonetheless, I've always wanted to do it. I've always wanted to adopt this practice. I've always wanted to be in that place. And for me, I had to heal on so many levels. One, like heal from this idea that exercise has to be grueling and death-defying to count. Like, and that's really where my heart is. That's where I was raised. It has to hurt. It has to suck, or you aren't going to get the results that you want. And I had to remove results, period, because it isn't just about the physical result. It's also about the mental result and what I was setting my intention for accomplishing on the mat, right? And so today was my 12th day of this 30-day class that I found. And the first couple of days it was kind of like, am I liking this? Do I really want to be here? And now it's like, whoa, I get it. I get yoga, and I have always wanted to, right? But I think true to everything, you arrive when you arrive. There's no use rushing it. There's no use trying to make something happen that isn't sticking. Like, you'll get there. There's a reason that it's always kind of been an underlying want for me, but has never stuck, and I've never found myself there. And I had to heal from so many things. I had to release so many blocks that were up around all of that to truly enter into that practice. And so I've been doing yoga and meditating, and it all feels amazing. And I will tell you, these were things that I would have avoided for the entirety of my life. because it's hard. Silence is hard. Breathing is hard. And when I used to enter the mat, it was like breath and movement were disconnected, right? And my mind. And so there were like 3 different parts moving. And while I could physically attain yoga, no problem, right? I wasn't getting any gold stars. Yay, you can do a tree pose. Wow, way to go. But I'm in tree pose and my leaves are waving all around. Like, that's just an aura thing. That's a whole different level of experience. And so, yeah, that feels amazing. And second amazing thing, and I'm just saying, like, whoa, my hairdresser slash hair manager left to go do something else with her life, and I have not touched any hair on my body because I've just not known what to do. And I wasn't really willing to go search for anyone else because, like, this is the person that is supposed to be with me forever as a hair manager. And she texted me yesterday and she was like, after some deep thought, after some real exploration, I am going to open my own salon. And I am just like, fireworks, fireworks, fireworks. Like, life is aligning. The world is abundant. Everything is falling into place, right? Like, that doesn't seem like it'd be a big deal. But if you've ever had an amazing hairdresser who truly just spoke to you in ways that you couldn't even think about, like when I wanted bangs, she was just like, I am so here for that. And I'm like, listen, I have this vision with my Ray-Bans. I don't even have Ray-Bans, but you can understand, right? Like, this is supposed to happen, right? And she's like, listen, we're going there. We're taking you there. We're not looking back. And I think most people would have been like, bangs? Let's pump the brakes. And she was just like, I see the vision. I see it. I see it. I'm going to make it happen. Let's go there. Let's do it. Right? And like, that wasn't something that I needed to serve me for the rest of my life. But I needed it in that moment, and she went there with me. And she just gives me all kinds of joy. I couldn't be happier. I kind of felt like she was holding back from like the brilliance that she even just brought to my chair. And I think I'm so excited to see her bring her vision of what this world could look like to her business and like to me, because I get to experience it, right? And so I'm just saying, like, go ahead and plant your flag. Plant it today. Abundance. The world is abundant, and it is abundantly aligning with whatever it is you want, right? Like, I couldn't take a step forward without her. And so I didn't. And she came back. She came back, and I'm certain that it was not for me. I am certain that I was no more than a person on her list. But this is just proof, right? That the world aligns and that it gives you what you need when you need it. And like, I don't know, maybe the world's saying, Hannah, you're about to have to get your hair right so that you can re-enter this world. I don't know what it's saying. All I know is that I'm so here for this. I couldn't be more here for this. I was actually just thinking, like, last week, like, fine, you're going to have to find all new things, but does anybody do it the way that she does it? Do they? Right? And that's the thought in my head. And I don't have to think through that because she's going to do it. She's going to bring it to life. She's going to make it happen. And she's coming back. Yes. Okay. Go ahead. Recognize yourself for your great thing. There's probably a million. I mean, come on. The world is like working for you and towards you and wants you to win. Period. Are you willing to accept it? That's the shift. That's the shift. I'm ready. I am here for it. I'm so ready. It's gross. But it's not. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. I have a sheet of paper. Ooh, I think it's right here. I circled some things. Really, after this podcast stops, sorry for the paper rumble, the rest of my day is kind of spent listening and writing and recording, and then also like building a business and working full time and managing children and managing a household and like living a life. But I'm always trying to take notes on what is guiding me and where we're headed next as a show. Really, this show is just a reflection of me as a person in the pursuit of happiness, period. And so yesterday I wrote this, and I don't even know where we take this, but I have multiple notes here, and I don't know how they all flow, but I know that the words are going to be given to me. And I know that they're going to find the ears that are ready to receive them. So let's start piecing this together. First note: love is infinite. The world is abundant. Let go of the belief that either is untrue. And that is like such an underlying explanation point, like way to live your life. And I think so many of us just live in the opposite. And I know that because I absolutely lived in the opposite. And I was trying to explain this to my husband yesterday, and I kind of broke it down like this. Think about the people who you know who are super high strung. Like, and I mean like wound so tightly that they might just spin off and break at any given moment. If anything goes wrong, they're the ones that you're concerned about. Those people. The ones that just like have such an exact way of living life, and they're just spun 10 times around, right? And the tension is tight and constant. And then think about the person that you know that's so chill, that just like goes with every single flow, has really no intention, has no real purpose, has no real aspirations. And this person used to challenge me because I used to be the opposite person who was wound really, really tight. Though I would have everyone believe that I was the opposite, I was the wound tight person. And I was so jealous of the person who had no aspirations, because this is what happens, right? They probably have them. They're just not announcing them. Okay. And things flow to them because they understand, right? Like, in order to receive the flow, you have to be the flow. You can't be trying to make it happen so fiercely, right? Like, you can't be in control. You have to just submit and let it flow. And so those tightly wound people, think about their lives and think about how many challenges there are, and think about how difficult, like every single thing is like pulling teeth, right? And even when they have success, it's like almost painful how outward that celebration is, right? Like, they have to be recognized because, yeah, frick, like, they're working real hard. Like, if they aren't successful or celebrated, like, what are they doing it all for? Duh. Right? And then there's those other people who really don't care one way or the other. I could be celebrated, I could not be celebrated. It really doesn't matter to me. I kind of just go with the flow, and because they go with the flow flows back. And I think that's the crossover into this space where we're really letting go of that belief that either is untrue, right? That love is not infinite and that the world is abundant. Everything can flow to you. Your job is to open up the channels. And this is what's challenging about that, right? Like, we really live in a culture and in a society that rewards the high-strung, high-spun person, right? And generally we attribute success to that person, right? Because the other people aren't as outward about it. We don't know what's going on. We just always see them kind of doing the things that we don't even know if they want to do, right? Things just happen to them. And then you sit there as a person in this world, and you, as someone who's spun so tight, wound so far up, and you're pissed. Yeah. You're mad. You're killing yourself, right? All for what? When Joe's over there chilling and killing. Like, what is going on? How does this happen? They don't even care. And I now realize that that is the trick, right? And it can't be a trick. You can't fake your way there. You can't go, oh yeah, I don't care, but then secretly behind the scenes be trying to control absolutely everything, thus winding yourself up even tighter, because on the outside to everyone you have given up and you've given submission, and on the backside you are secretly tinker-toying everything that happens. No, it doesn't work like that. It's full. Like, the energy that you put out into the world is acknowledged and it can be returned. But you can't fake it. And this is where that gets hard, right? And I wrote this down yesterday, and now it kind of makes sense how all this is playing in together. Because you can, or because you feel called. And that's the bigger challenge, right? Like, we can all do anything. You can. You don't believe that it's true? I don't question that anymore. Anything that you want to do is really possible. And so we're going to take that one off the table just from the start, okay? We're not even talking about that. We're not even going there. Anything that you want to accomplish, say that you want to be an actress in a movie, like, you can do that. No question. Yep. And the 10 things that just came up when I said that, when you thought about that, like, nope, that's not realistic. Those aren't real. They aren't real. And it gets tricky because sometimes we get stuck in success. That's awkward. What a weird thing to say. Stuck in success? Huh? Question mark? Confused. But think about it. We're built in our school systems, in the way that our society works, to kind of live the life that came before us. And if we level up, we're good, right? Like, if we do a little bit better than our parents, we're good. And we're kind of trained to believe that that's all that we can hope for, that that's all that we really deserve. And so we get worked into what I got worked into, settling for a life that really was unfulfilling, that I was really actually successful at. Like, really no reason to want to do anything else, to need to do anything else. Had everything that I could have wanted. Just kept writing different materialistic goals down each year. Like, you got this. I don't know. Maybe we take control and try to get super ripped. I don't know. I don't know what to do from here. Right? And that's not to, like, toot my own horn. Listen. It's the stuck in success part. Right? And so many of us are doing things because we can, and we've been told that we're good, and not doing things because that's actually what we want to do. And crossing over, right? And taking that path that maybe doesn't look like success for a while to find that thing. Or maybe it instantly looks like success because you've gone through it and you deserve the payout of that. Like, that's not really up to you. right? And you can't guide that process. You can't be on the back end trying to make it all happen. It will flow. Trust me. I've been on the back end for a good majority of this podcast. I would say about 2 weeks ago, I decided to quit trying to pretend that I was a person not on the back end trying to make it all happen. Now it's just about opening the flow, right? Matching the frequency, going with it and calling it back in. And I was someone who was extremely aware of the mental work of the things that I was saying to myself. And yet, even in that consciousness, I didn't realize how I was calling bad things in regardless. And it's not just me saying bad things to myself. It also is an extension of just conversations that you're even willing to put your energy into, right? And that's a major shift. But I think bottom line, it's hard to step away from success once you've experienced it, right? Once you've gotten that first gold star, our ego wants to start chasing that. And so it's really hard to turn away from that, right? But following that path because of the gold star or because it's the only thing that people acknowledge about you may leave you feeling really unfulfilled. At least that was my experience, right? And I wasn't really doing anything that I had chosen. And this is I think where the world gets interesting, because here's the deal. You have the ability to choose anything, and that's like suffocating in and of itself. Period. Like, really? Okay, I'm going to avoid that. But given that you have that broad range of choices, it's really hard to pick. And it's even harder to go ahead and turn away from what you know is going to work right away. Like, we all want that quick win. No question. We all do. But what does it look like if we hand over control and we just start listening, right? And even this morning, I'm down, I do my yoga, I'm coming back upstairs, and something just says, like, grab a hat. Hannah, grab a hat. And I'm like, what? We don't need a hat. My hair's up. It's perfectly fine. And then I go to the bathroom before I come in here to start the podcast. And as I'm sitting there, I realize you have to have a hat. You're wearing the same shirt that you wore yesterday. And when you wear the same shirt that you wore yesterday, it gets really confusing when you go to upload your videos to YouTube. And so that's why you needed a hat. Duh. Are you going to continue not listening? Are you going to continue trying to steer the ship? Right? And here I am. Yup, still steering the ship, walking up the stairs, not grabbing the hat. Like, no. Listen, whoever you are, angels, spirit guides, whoever you are telling me these things, I'm like, I don't need a hat. You're silly. People are speaking to you. You're being guided by whichever high divine guidance you acknowledge, right? Like, and those things are trying to take you there. And a lot of us just want those things to shut up because it's just like, nah, I'm getting the gold stars. I'm here. I'm good. And I'm not saying like, oh, Hannah's saying my job is not successful. I should go start a business. No. Listen, there are a lot of people not equipped to start a business. And do not think for 1 second that because that's my path, because podcasting is my path and speaking and writing, that is going to be your path, or that is what I'm calling you to do, to leave and find your freedom. And I will tell you, you will maybe be called to do that, but that does not mean that is your destiny, right? Like for the last 6 months, I was called to just explore. And I think in that moment when I wanted control, it felt like, oh, that's because that's what I want my path to look like. Just exploring and doing whatever I want. Like that's why I'm being called to do this. And it wasn't about that as much as it was the freedom to explore and test things and try things and see what stuck and see where I ended up and help to explore the unknown and find where I wanted to go and take all of this. Was that my career path? Well, part of it, right? But most of that call wasn't about needing freedom forever. It was about needing freedom for that moment. And people are speaking to you. Higher divine purposes are telling you where to go and what to do. Your ego sometimes speaks louder, right? And guides you towards gold stars that don't really fulfill you, because ego / lower purpose / devil / whatever you want to call it, right? Doesn't want you to get there. Doesn't want you to take higher purpose. Like, go ahead. Keep doing the thing that you don't really feel called to. I'm good, right? Because if everybody gets on the right wavelength, if everybody understands their higher purpose and they're moving towards that goal and they get it and they're stopping trying to control it, right? Those people can't really be interrupted. And then what does ego have to do? Nothing, right? Like, just, here you go, ego, I'm going to go ahead and fire you. And ego is meant as a guide, right? It's not like a damning principle that you're like, no, go away, right? We're not going to flick it off of our shoulder. It's helpful, right? And I think, we need to keep removing ego as a negative. Ego is another guide. And yes, it's a darker guide, but darkness and light need to exist together, right? Like we have to have night, we have to have day. We can't really function without both. And so ego is a good way for you to test your growth, for you to understand your own human nature. It's human nature and calls to want success, to want the gold stars. And so it's a great way to tap into the understanding of who your mind is calling you to be, but not necessarily your spirit, right? And once you kind of call that out and not call it out in a negative way, right? Like allow ego to exist in its natural form, you can understand what your response is about, right? Like, is this about my ego, or is this something I feel called to do? Because bottom line is, you can do anything. But do you feel called? Or are you just doing it because it's additional gold stars on the ego chart? And yeah, I think we all struggle with that. I still very much struggle with that. And I think for me, at least where I'm at right now in this given moment, it's about letting down the control that I think I need to have over that and allowing the flow to come in and out. You'll find your way. You really will. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.